All right, Sector 3, probably actually the easiest sector so far. I'm almost done with Sector 4, but some of the ray feats are just insane. And then I realized that I have run out of storage space on my phone because I have so many unused screen recording clips, such as the ones that comprise this overall video. So I gotta catch up and I gotta move and make some space because I recorded like two of my successful battles and a number of failures on Ray in Sector 4, and they did not record because no space. Also, there was a funky iPhone update that was like a gigabyte and a half. Um, so that took up a lot of space too. But yeah, so here we are, Sector 3. CLS is actually like the easiest one, I think. Um, Ray Jawas can do a lot. A lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. If it weren't for stamina, I would probably just use, or stamina and the other feats, I would probably just use them for the whole thing. But whatever. Just realize that you fight CLS there in the beginning. Didn't put two and two together before. Sector 4 with Ray in the end, like I said, is really hard. I did beat her, obviously. I did unlock Sector 5, so I honestly may start plugging away at Sector 5 and come back to Sector 4 because, dude, some of those things are just fucking insane. Like the 700% turn meter reduction is brutal versus Ray. Because if she goes into ultimate, like, you're fucked. Like, you gotta ride it out and hope enough people survive that you can keep going on that 700% turn meter. And then the 15 out of turns, some people said they had success with IT, which I think is remarkable. Definitely would have to load up the potency on that. And then some people said they had success with CLS, which gotta load up on the offense for that. So yeah, I may end up having to switch some mods around, but I think I'm gonna go to Sector 5 first and start making my way through that, and then come back. Because Bella was here like cooking and getting ready for work, and I'm just like screaming at my phone, and she's like, take a break before you throw your phone. And I very nearly did. I very nearly did. Yeah, it was infuriating. Yeah. It's hard to believe that today's only Tuesday, but I worked Saturday and Sunday this weekend, which obviously is why it feels much later in the week than Tuesday. But it is in fact still Tuesday, so that's a bummer. Market was kind of weird today. It was like barely up, barely down, flat for a lot of the day, and then ended down just a wee bit. Wasn't too terrible, but I did say, and I've been saying that we're going to trade sideways for a while. It certainly appears to be the case so far. Luckily, May is almost over. So will that superstition then subside, or will we continue on with this sideways move for a while longer? One thing I don't expect to see this year is a fourth quarter rally, a Santa rally. I could be wrong. The stars could very well align for a Santa rally. I think that with the elevated, like, in atmospheric levels that the stock market has gone to, really since the election, even since November. I just think that traditional Santa rally might be asking for a little bit too much. So I do not see a Santa rally coming this December. But again, I could be wrong. It's 6 months away. A lot can happen in 6 months. We all know this firsthand. A lot can happen in 2 months, but so certainly a lot can happen in 6 months. I would love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong. Look, I never thought we would get to 34,000 on the Dow, right? We got to the high 20s, and I was like, all right, that's enough. It's topping out there. We got to 30. All right, okay, that's enough. It'll stop there. Nope, 34. 34. I never thought we would get here. If you had told me we'd be at Dow 34,000 in 2021, if you told me that back in 2009, I'd probably say you're out of your mind. If you told me we'd have Dow 34,000 in March of 2020, I would have told you you're out of your mind, and here we are. Yeah, look, with the amount that the market has run up, you're always kind of primed for a 5 to 10% correction. 5% correction is like nothing, considering for a good chunk of the last year and a half, we have daily 1% moves. So that's 5% correction is like a blip now compared to even 2 years ago. 5% correction, even going back to the Great Recession, is something remarkable. But 5% pullback now is like, oh, that's like a regular Tuesday, or that's just one bad week. Not even, it's 2 bad days. So I don't know, man. I do think it's going to trade sideways for a while. It doesn't mean there isn't money to be made. There's always money to be made somewhere. There's always money to be made somewhere. That's one of the best things I think about the market. You don't have to be boring like me, just like buy and hold, mega caps with dividends. That's boring. I like it because it's slow and steady, but you don't have to be boring and slow and steady like me. There are plenty of people that make money every day, whether the market is up or down, or sideways or flat. So there's always money to be made somewhere. You don't want to be the one holding the bag of shit at the end of the day, which is generally why I stay away from the super volatile names, especially like the Reddit trades nowadays. They've calmed down a little bit. They are still very much there, make no mistake. They are definitely still here. I saw AMC was up like 8% today or so at one point. So they're still around. And it seems like they are starting to hone their craft a little bit. I think there are fewer people buying at the top, although someone's always going to buy there, right? You don't get there unless someone buys at or near the top. You just got to make sure you're not in the last crop of buyers before, fatigue sets in. Not my bag, not my MO, but certainly a number of people made a lot of money. A number of people lost a lot of money, but a number of people made a lot of money. That's just why it's not really my thing. Like these hyper volatile, high flying things, sure, plenty of people are making money, but someone's always getting fucked and left holding a bag of shit, and that's not my thing. Like if someone buys, just for argument's sake, Caterpillar here, which is pretty close to the top, I believe in the long-term story of Caterpillar. So even though someone might buy at or near the top now, it's a long-term story. We don't even have an infrastructure bill passed, and Caterpillar is double from where it was this time last year. We don't even have a fucking infrastructure bill, and Cat is double where it was this time last year. Yes, I repeated that very purposefully. But on the other side of the coin, does that mean that the valuation is stretched and a lot of the hype and potential benefit and profit from an infrastructure bill is built in? Absolutely. That's always a possibility. That's always a possibility. Man, that fucking Sith Marauder is a straight savage. That's what I get for not having any tanks in there. So, look, if you trade with caution. If you are up big with short or long-term holdings, because if you bought 6 months ago and you held throughout, depending on what it is, you did pretty well, or you've done pretty well thus far. So whatever it is, trade, invest carefully, tread lightly. Never, ever risk more than you can afford to. I know lots of people are still borrowing on margin, even though it's a little bit more difficult to do so now after the Robinhood fiasco. But just please be careful, be cognizant of what's going on, what you're putting your money into, how much you're putting in, at what rate, if you're on margin, and understand that you could be subject to margin call if you're, in something too risky. If you're in something too risky, the investment house could margin call and just pull all your money back. And if you're down, guess what? That doesn't absolve your debt. You still fucking owe them money. If you borrowed $5,000 and you lost $2,000 and you get margin called, you still owe that money. You owe that principal plus the interest. So, you're not going to be able to pay all that off with your proceeds. So, you're not getting free money. Although Robinhood does from time to time give out free stock, which I think is hilarious. Oh, don't mind my alarm. That was just for me to wake up. Even though I woke up an hour before my alarm because my dogs. So yeah, tread lightly, invest carefully, don't be stupid. That's why I always advise anyone that asks me on a personal level, that asks me, about investing. One of the first things I always say is do not try to chase the next big thing. Because if this is your first foray into investing and you're chasing the next big thing, you're probably going to lose. Because you know what? You don't know how to time the market. There are 20, 30, 40-year veterans that will tell you they don't want to try to time the market. They don't know how to try to time the market because it's really hard to time the market. More often than not, you get lucky. It's better to be lucky than good, in my opinion. And I've been very lucky. I put a lot of money, into the market in 2009. I put 99% of my net worth into the market in 2009. That was lucky. It could have just as easily gone back down to the very bowels of 2008. Very easily. I got lucky. That wasn't smart, necessarily. I mean, in hindsight, sure, it was smart, but it could have just as easily gone down from where I put in. And then same thing, March of last year. I think it was March 23rd was the low, the end of the shortest bear market maybe in history. And I plugged a lot of money in between end of March, April, and the beginning of May last year. Same thing, could have just as easily gone down. Could have just as easily gone down from there, but I got lucky. I got lucky, and it is better to be lucky than good. And that's not just me being modest. I put money in fully prepared for it to potentially go back down, but I figured eventually Don't know what that timeline was going to be. I got lucky again. The timeline was much shorter and much quicker than I had ever anticipated. But I put money in March, April, and May of last year with the full knowledge and understanding that that money could very easily depreciate for a good long time before it appreciated. I got lucky. And if you missed that, if you missed either or both of those rallies in 2009 or March, May, April, May of last year, don't try to make up for it by chasing shit. Don't try to make up for it by, following a bunch of guys that you don't know on Reddit. You don't know if they are financial advisors, financial analysts. That's part of the problem in the anonymity of Reddit, or at least Wall Street Bets on Reddit. You don't know who they are. They could be fucking hedge fund guys trying to manipulate the masses to get themselves a cheaper price on something. You don't know. You think of all the people in Wall Street Bets, there's not a single major bank financial advisor in there? I mean, the guy Roaring Kitty, he's a financial advisor. He is admittedly upfront about who he is and where he has worked and all that. But for every guy like Roaring Kitty, there's probably 1,000 fucking guys that are just trying to be subversive over there. So please, please be cautious. It's like your mother always used to tell you, don't talk to strangers. Yeah, don't take investment advice from fucking strangers on Reddit, please. Just please be careful. It's your future, hopefully, right? There are some people that have lost their livelihoods as a result of these sorts of things. Yeah, and look, sure, there's lots of screenshots on Wall Street Bets, but hello, this is the internet. Screenshots can be edited and manipulated and whatever else. And that's not even me being cynical. That's just straight fucking fact. So I just, I'd be really apprehensive about taking investment advice from someone that might as well be named or nicknamed John Doe, because you don't know who the fuck they are. You don't know what their motives are. They don't. It's not like Seeking Alpha, where every poster really has to disclose their entire portfolio. And even Seeking Alpha, right? And I love Seeking Alpha, but those are all op-eds, basically, right? So everyone that writes, not everyone, but certainly most people that write on Seeking Alpha, they have a particular interest. No different than Reddit. They have a particular interest. No misunderstanding. You may not know what, just because they're advocating for something does not necessarily mean that that is their interest. There could be something totally else at play. So, just be careful. And I'm not saying don't necessarily pay for a financial advisor, because those guys are fucking shysters too. I fired mine. Really, ultimately, what you have to do is do the research yourself. Do the research yourself. Put the time in to do the research so you know what the fuck you're doing and you know what the fuck you're talking about. You may not learn everything. It's impossible to learn everything. But, put the work in. Don't expect the baby without the labor pains. Put the work in yourself. Do the work yourself. If you see an idea on Wall Street Bets that sounds compelling, that's okay. But do the research yourself to confirm, deny, verify, whatever. Do the work yourself. Put the work in. Teach yourself how to do it. I fucking taught myself how to do it. I'm no fucking genius. I don't have an econ degree. I didn't study econ in school. I just made sure to watch, read, listen, every single fucking thing I could, and if I felt like I had a certain position or opinion on something, I would Google Seeking Alpha, Morningstar, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg. I would look, like if I had one stock that I like, just for instance, I would look on half a dozen different sites for all the different articles and all the different op-eds to see if what I thought or heard or read or saw from one source was the same from another source. Because look, like you go on CNBC, it's no different, right? These guys advocating for stocks or poo-pooing stocks, there's a reason. They have a vested interest in doing whatever they are doing. Again, no misunderstanding. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are wrong. Doesn't necessarily mean that they are right. But it's, you have to put the work in. It's like anything else. You have to put the work in to do the research. So you have half a fucking clue about what you're doing. That's it. It doesn't take a fucking genius to be successful at investing. You have to be patient, and you have to put the work in, and not chase the next big thing, because that's how most people lose their money. But then also, don't be married to any one stock. Don't like, it's like I have said that there are very few stocks that you can buy and hold forever, and that is still the case. I used to say that about Disney, and for a good while there, I was rethinking that. I was like, you know what? Maybe Disney is no longer a stock that you can buy and hold forever. At the height of the pandemic, movie theaters were shut down, parks were shut down. Disney Plus was good, but they're not generating that kind of crazy revenue. They're still trying to build a subscriber base. So at a point, I was like, you know what? Disney may not be a buy and hold forever stock anymore. They killed their dividend. They suspended their dividend for the time being. Luckily, I doubled down on it, and the stock at least came roaring back, even though their earnings are still pretty shit. But there really are not many, if any, stocks that you can buy and hold forever anymore. Even stuff like Verizon, AT&T. First of all, AT&T, the stock has had a real rough go of it. Verizon's pretty much the same. But you know what? Even AT&T and Verizon are coming under a little bit of pressure. Their margins are kind of thin, honestly, because they have such chunky dividends. But that's why people own those fucking stocks, for those chunky dividends. So, if they cut the dividend, just like AT&T, they the word was they're going to cut the dividend because they're throwing money at this merger. And the share price bottomed out. Well, not bottomed out, but dropped 10% in less than a week. Because people own that shit because they want that chunky 7% or 6.75% dividend. So there are some stocks that you can buy and almost hold forever, barring a pandemic maybe, but they are few and far between. If you told anyone 30 years ago that oil and gas stocks and companies were going to come under tremendous pressure due to renewables, people would have told you you're fucking out of your mind. 100 years ago, if you told people that the coal industry was going to be dead by well, not dead, but certainly on its deathbed by now, they would have thought you were fucking crazy. If you just look at the Dow 30, right? Which is a ridiculous index to pay attention to at all. But for the fact that it shows you over time how things change. Because the Dow 30 is supposed to represent the 30 most important, influential, and like largest companies, right? And it's changed tremendously in the last 100 years. Just go look. Don't take my word for it. Go look at the Dow and how it's changed over the last 100 years. And it shows you how society changes its focus on what is important, what is the best for us in society. Because, like, I'm trying to think. I'm gonna pull it up on my. Because I, truth be told, I don't remember all Dow 30 stocks off the top of my head. But, like, just for instance, GE used to be in there. Not in there anymore. All right, I gotta Google it. All right, historical components, Dow. Here we go. Current components: 3M, American Express, Amgen, Apple, Boeing, Caterpillar, Chevron, Cisco, Coca-Cola, Dow, Goldman Sachs, Home Depot, Honeywell, IBM, Intel, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan Chase, McDonald's, Merck, Microsoft, Nike, Procter & Gamble, Salesforce, that's a newer one, by the way, Travelers, United Health Group, Verizon Communications, Visa, Walgreens, Boots Alliance, Walmart, and the Walt Disney Company. If you look at it 100 years ago, half of these fucking things weren't in here. Apple, Boeing, Cisco, Home Depot, IBM, Intel, Microsoft, Salesforce, brand new one. These motherfuckers were not in here 100 years ago. So, in fact, I don't even know if there are any, like, OG members left. Let's take a look. We'll go back to March of 1920. All right, just for argument's sake. American Can Company, American Car and Foundry Company, American Locomotive Company, American Smelting and Refining Company. Oh my God. American Sugar Refining Company, American Telephone and Telegraph Company, Anaconda Copper Mining. Oh, hey, look, B.F. Goodrich, I know that name at least. General Electric, I know that one. Like, literally, U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel is at least still around, but literally not a single company in the Dow 100 years ago that is there now. Let's look. We'll go to August of 1982. Right, so I'm looking. American Express, there we go. There's one that's still in there. GE was still in there. Procter & Gamble. International Business Machines. IBM was there. DuPont, which is not in there anymore. Merck is in there. Exxon. U.S. Steel. Anyway, you get the idea. Dow is supposed to represent, American industry, and clearly American industry has changed quite a bit over the last however many years. So